Shana Tova to all. It's so lovely to have you in this space with me. I've spent a lot of time in this space alone this past year, physically alone, but with that screen that's right there, right where the flowers are, just right in front here, and doing services that way for the majority of the year. And I cannot tell you how beautiful and wonderful this is. It's been step by step. Right? We've had gatherings outside where we've gotten to be together physically. We've had some B'nai Mitzvah celebrations in here with much, much less people. And this is certainly the fullest the sanctuary has been in well over, probably a year and a half time. So it's a wonderful thing to see you and to be together and to see the progress that we've made and to hear our voices joining together and lifting one another up. So I thought I'd share a little bit at this point in the service and tell you that one of the things that I really love to do is to walk. I love to go on walks. Wherever I have lived, I have found wonderful places to walk. In Eugene, Oregon, among the redwoods, in the forests of the Berkshires, along the Gulf of Mexico and Sarasota, and all these places I've had the blessing to live. And now, along the seacoast, right here in Newcastle. I have been so blessed to live in beautiful places and to walk through the seasons on so many gorgeous paths. With no destination in mind, but simply to immerse in the pleasure of movement. My surrounds have brought me comfort, revitalization, and sometimes inspiration. I'm reminded of the very first command that is given to Avram before he becomes Abraham in the Torah, just before the section that we read today. The very first command given to Avram is Lech Lecha, go forth, go out, go to a place that I will show you. Leave all that is familiar and just go without knowing where you are headed. It is time to leave behind all you have known, all that is comfortable, and get yourself onto a new path. It is the journey and not the destination that forms the roots of our spiritual legacy and also our destiny. As we travel through the Torah itself, we receive another message repeatedly. In describing the place where the Israelites will eventually land and celebrate their festivals, the Torah uses the phrase, Bamakom asher yivchar Adonai, in that place that God will choose, rather than actually naming the destination. The phrase appears dozens of times, forming a kind of poetic trope, never revealing where that place is, but instead impressing upon us the value of the journey itself. Go to the place where I will establish my name, to the place that Adonai will choose. To not know where we are headed, but nevertheless remain anchored in trust that we will arrive where we are meant to be, is a profound spiritual challenge. Thus, our tradition is concerned not where we are headed, but rather how we will walk the path. What is the nature of our walking? How do we behave as we traverse this wilderness? Just a few weeks ago, we read in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10, verse 12, Now Israel, what does the Lord your God require from you, but to revere the Eternal One, your God, and to walk in God's ways? The rabbis naturally ask the question, what does it mean to walk in God's ways? And they answer this way. Just as God is merciful and compassionate, so should we be merciful and compassionate. How we greet each moment, each person, and each situation along the path will define the substance of our lives. This past year we all entered into a new kind of wilderness, one seemingly ruled over by what I would call a three-headed monster: a global health crisis, environmental catastrophes, and socio-political upheaval. So much of what we had counted on for stability and security seems to have been ripped away. It has been a year of profound stresses and painful losses, a year of grief and of fear, a year of unmet needs and desires, a year of loneliness and a year of sorrow. It is no surprise that we have witnessed increased outbursts of cruelty, a rise in gun violence, in domestic violence, in anti-Semitic attacks, hate crimes, attacks on the Asian community. A pervasive sense of insecurity has contributed to a profound erosion of trust. We sit together today at the start of a new year with the deep question of how we will each meet each new day. How will each of us walk through this wilderness? How might we each walk a path of gratitude, of forgiveness, and renewed trust? We can begin to explore this question by considering what we actually have learned and gained over this past year. Despite the extreme challenges, this has also been a year of recognizing the value of human connection, the delicious power of hugs, and simple acts of kindness toward one another. We have discovered how fragile is our democracy and how precious it is and in need of our full attention and protection. And so many of us have reconnected with the beauty and the healing potential within nature. Reeling as we are from one natural disaster to the next, we've begun to take some bold steps toward reclaiming a balanced world. With God's help, we all certainly pray that it might be enough to get us through this time of dizzying disequilibrium. Today, at this moment, I'm asking you to consider, what are the blessings in your lives? What have you learned about yourself, about your priorities during this strange and bewildering time? What matters most to you? In other words, what are your COVID keepers? What are you going to keep from this experience? There is a story handed down by Richard Wilhelm, a theologian and a teacher of Chinese philosophy. Here's what he says. There was once a great drought where he lived. For months, there had not been a drop of rain, and the situation became catastrophic. After much prayer, the people said, "We will fetch the rainmaker." And from another province, a dried-up old man appeared. The only thing he asked for was a quiet little house somewhere, and there he locked himself in for 3 days. On the 4th day, the clouds gathered, and to everyone's surprise, a great snowstorm arrived, though it wasn't even winter. The people were astonished. Wilhelm went to ask the man how he did it. And the man said, or Wilhelm said, "They call you the rainmaker. Will you please tell me how you actually made it snow?" And the little Chinese man said, "I did not make the snow. I am not responsible." "Well, but what did you do over these 3 days?" "Oh, I can explain that. I come from another country where things are in order. Here, things are out of order. They are not as they should be by the ordinance of heaven. And since the whole country is not in balance, I am also not in order because I am in a disordered land. So I put myself inside. I had to wait 3 days until I had put myself back in order, and then naturally the rain came, or the snow." My friends, we are living in a time like no other. You know this. I don't really have to say it, but I'm saying it. Where the entire world is out of order. It has been an overwhelming time, and we have all felt a sense to some degree of powerlessness. The shaman in our story delivers a simple yet profound message. When the world around us is in disorder, when we are walking through an uncharted wilderness full of unexpected dangers, there is one thing we can all do, and that is to put ourselves back in order. And by doing so, we can bring more order to the world around us. This summer, I particularly enjoyed watching the Olympics and seeing the power and the hope, the inspiration from human potential, directed and focused, achieving what seemed to be beyond human capabilities. And the Paralympics as well, if you got to see any of that. And during these tremendous accomplishments, there was one story that stood out for me, and that was the story of Simone Biles, known as the greatest gymnast of all times. She emerged as a powerful call to self-care. In a vaulting competition, you might remember, she lost her bearings, she became disoriented, and she couldn't tell where she was in the air. When she completed the vault, she announced that she needed to withdraw from the competition. She said she felt she could not trust herself. She recognized that she was no longer in order, and she needed to pull out of this most high-stake world competition so that she could put herself back in order. What a powerful act of discipline and bravery. Simone teaches a powerful lesson that when we are disoriented and overwhelmed, the best thing we can do is to pause and recenter. Each year, as we mark the passage of time through these elaborate high holiday rituals, our tradition offers us a spiritual treasury of tools to put ourselves back in order. Perhaps there is one prayer, one image, one line that speaks to your heart, that reconnects you to a deeper truth within. But beyond these high holy days and looking to the year ahead, perhaps there is for you one activity like walking or dancing or cycling or yoga, listening to music, playing with a child, one thing that reconnects you, you know what it is, that one thing that reconnects you with your deep core and brings you back into balance. For some, it might be meditation or journaling, or simply making a list each day of what it is that you're grateful for. Whatever it might be, I ask you today to commit to finding that which brings you back to center, back into balance, and make a dedicated time for it. For as we do so, we reestablish trust in ourselves. And from that foundation of stability, we can help bring the world back into natural harmony. Today, the shofar that we're about to hear calls upon us to awaken from our slumber. This year, our entire world sounds the shofar, sounds the alarm. I ask of myself and us all, how will we put ourselves in order each day as we move forward together on a path to a place we do not yet know? Shana Tova.